Welcome to Globewise Entertainment. Hollywood may be glamorous, but behind the scenes, many stars have faced serious challenges, including sexism in the industry. From pay gaps to unfair treatment, these celebs didn't stay silent. In this video, we're diving into the top time celebrities opened up about sexism in Hollywood Part 1. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to Globewise Entertainment and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos on entertainment, celebrity news, and more. Now let's get into it. Movie camera. 1. Jennifer Lawrence. The pay gap. Jennifer Lawrence had always believed that hard work and talent would pave the way for success. And for the most part it had. She had starred in The Hunger Games, won an Oscar, and become one of the most sought-after actresses in Hollywood. But in 2014, she stumbled upon something that shook her confidence in the industry she loved. The infamous Sony email hack had exposed confidential information, including the salaries of actors in American Hustle. Jennifer was shocked to learn that despite being one of the film's leads, alongside Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, and Jeremy Renner, she had been paid significantly less than her male co-stars. First, she blamed herself. Had I not negotiated hard enough? Was I too afraid of being seen as difficult? She realized she had been conditioned, like many women, to avoid confrontation. But as she reflected, her frustration grew. I got mad at myself, she later wrote in an essay for Lenny Letter. I failed as a negotiator because I gave up early. I didn't want to seem difficult or spoiled. Her words struck a chord with fans and fellow actresses alike. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was shedding light on a deep-rooted issue in Hollywood. The pay gap wasn't just about money. It was about respect, value, and fairness. From that moment on, Jennifer vowed to never settle for less, and encouraged other women to do the same. Her story became a turning point in the industry's conversation about equal pay, proving that even Hollywood's biggest stars weren't immune to sexism. And this time she wasn't staying silent. 2. Natalie Portman. Being paid less than Ashton Kutcher. The pay gap, no strings attached. Natalie Portman had always believed in fairness. She had spent years proving her talent, earning an Oscar, and building a respected career. But Hollywood had a way of reminding even the most accomplished women that their worth was still measured differently than their male counterparts. It wasn't until after filming No Strings Attached that she learned the truth. Ashton Kutcher, her co-star, had been paid 3 times more than her. It wasn't about experience or screen time. It was just the way things were. She thought back to the countless times she had been told to be grateful for opportunities, to not be difficult by negotiating too hard. But this time she decided to speak up. In an interview, she shared her frustration. Ashton was completely supportive, she said. But that's the problem. This isn't about individuals. It's about a system that keeps undervaluing women. Her words sent ripples through the industry. Fans and fellow actresses rallied behind her, sharing their own experiences. It wasn't just about the money, it was about respect. And with that, Natalie Portman had added her voice to a growing movement, proving that silence was no longer an option in Hollywood. 3. Gillian Anderson. Fighting for equal pay on The X-Files. Gillian Anderson's fight for equal pay on The X-Files. Gillian Anderson had spent years playing the brilliant and fearless FBI agent Dana Scully on The X-Files, earning praise from fans and critics alike. But behind the scenes, she was fighting a different kind of battle, one for respect and equal pay. When The X-Files first aired in the 1990s, Anderson discovered that her co-star, David Duchovny, who played Fox Mulder, was being paid significantly more than her. Despite being an equal lead, she had to push to receive the same salary. After persistent negotiations, she finally achieved pay parity, only to face the same issue again when the show's revival was announced in 2016. Shockingly, Anderson was once again offered half of Duchovny's salary. But this time she didn't stay silent. Speaking out in interviews, she exposed the industry's double standards. "It was shocking to me that it was happening again," she said. Her outspokenness put a spotlight on Hollywood's ongoing gender pay gap, inspiring other actresses to demand equal treatment. Anderson's fight wasn't just about herself. It was about proving that women's work is just as valuable as men's. And in the end, she won. Dana Scully may have battled aliens, but Gillian Anderson fought something just as insidious: systemic sexism in Hollywood. And she refused to back down. For Emma Watson, being sexualized as a teen. Emma Watson's fight against Hollywood sexualization. At just 11 years old, Emma Watson stepped into the global spotlight as Hermione Granger in Harry Potter. She grew up on screen, adored by millions, but as she got older, she noticed something unsettling. By the time she turned 18, everything changed. The moment she became an adult, tabloids started running countdowns to her legal age. Paparazzi lurked outside events, hoping for a slip-up. Headlines shifted from celebrating her talent to dissecting her looks. "It was disturbing," Emma later admitted in an interview. "I had no control over how I was being portrayed." She wasn't alone. Many young actresses faced the same treatment, being valued more for their appearance than their skills. But instead of staying silent, Emma decided to fight back. She became a UN Women Goodwill Ambassador, using her voice to speak out against the sexualization of young girls in the media. Through the He for She campaign, she called for gender equality in all industries, including Hollywood. Despite the challenges, Emma remained true to herself. She continued choosing meaningful roles, advocating for women's rights, and proving that talent, not appearance, defines an actress. Her story became a wake-up call for the industry, reminding everyone that young women in Hollywood deserve respect, not objectification. 5. Reese Witherspoon, Ageism in Hollywood. Reese Witherspoon versus Hollywood's ageism. Reese Witherspoon sat in a high-rise office, flipping through a script. The character was sharp, ambitious, perfect for her. But as she reached the last page, her excitement faded. The love interest, 50-year-old man. Her character, supposedly too old for him at 37. She sighed. It wasn't the first time. Hollywood had a rule: men aged like fine wine. Women, they expired. Years before, she'd been advised to stick to cute, bubbly roles, or risk disappearing after 40. But Reese wasn't having it. She launched her own production company, Hello Sunshine, dedicated to telling women's stories, at any age. Soon Big Little Lies became a hit. Then The Morning Show. Both fronted by women over 40, both undeniable successes. One day an executive called. "Reese, we want you for this lead role." He smirked. "Good. Because I'm just getting started." 6. Scarlett Johansson. Being hypersexualized. Scarlett Johansson. Breaking free from Hollywood's hypersexualization. Scarlett Johansson was only a teenager when Hollywood started shaping her image, not as a rising actress, but as a symbol of seduction. By the time she turned 19, she found herself being cast in roles that emphasized her looks over her talent. It became clear after Lost in Translation 2003. Critics praised her performance, but the industry saw something else: an opportunity to market her as a sex symbol. Offers poured in for roles where she was meant to be alluring, mysterious, and little else. In interviews, Johansson would often be asked about her body rather than her craft. Red carpet reporters questioned her outfits and physique, while her male co-stars were asked about their acting techniques. Even during the Avengers press tours, she was repeatedly asked about her diet and how she fit into her suit, while her male co-stars discussed their characters' depth and arcs. Frustrated but determined, Johansson pushed back. She started speaking out, calling Hollywood's treatment of young actresses unfair and limiting. She fought for more complex roles, taking control of her career with films like Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, where her depth as an actress shone beyond the surface. Looking back, she acknowledges the industry's bias but also celebrates her ability to redefine herself. "I was objectified," she once said. "But I won't let that define me." And she didn't. Scarlett Johansson is no longer just a Hollywood star. She's a force who changed the narrative. 7th, Meryl Streep, the lack of female directors. Meryl Streep and the fight for female directors. Meryl Streep had spent decades in Hollywood, earning awards and accolades, but one glaring issue always troubled her. Where were all the female directors? At a prestigious film gala, she sat on a panel with renowned directors, all of whom were men. A journalist in the audience asked, "Meryl, you've worked with some of the greatest filmmakers. Who's your favorite female director?" Streep paused. She thought of the talented women she knew. So many struggling for opportunities, their work overshadowed, their voices unheard. She smiled politely but answered with quiet frustration. "I haven't worked with many female directors because they aren't given the same chances as men. And that's the problem." The room fell silent. Her words echoed across the industry, sparking discussions about gender inequality behind the camera. Determined to take action, Streep later funded a screenwriting lab for female writers over 40, women often ignored by Hollywood. She used her platform to advocate for change, proving that power wasn't just in the roles she played on screen, but in the real-world impact she could create. Though Hollywood still had a long way to go, Streep's words and actions helped shift the conversation, ensuring that the next generation of female directors would have a better shot at success. 8. Viola Davis. The double standard for women of color. Viola's voice. Breaking the double standard. Viola Davis sat in the dimly lit dressing room, staring at her reflection. She had just won another award, one of many, but the weight of Hollywood's double standard pressed on her shoulders. She recalled a recent conversation with a producer. "You're just as talented as Meryl Streep," he had said with a smile. "But the budgets aren't the same for black actresses." The word stung. She had the accolades, the experience, the respect, but not the pay, not the same opportunities. She thought back to her early years, fighting for scraps of roles while her white counterparts soared. Even now, after an Oscar, an Emmy, and a Tony, she still had to fight. "I'm tired," she murmured. "Tired of proving my worth when it should already be known." That night on stage, she held the microphone tightly. She took a breath. "The only thing that separates women of color from anyone else is opportunity," she said. The audience erupted in applause, but she wasn't speaking for applause. She was speaking for change. And in that moment, Viola's voice became a battle cry for every actress who had been overlooked, underpaid, and underestimated. 9. Salma Hayek. Harvey Weinstein's harassment. Salma Hayek's silent battle. A story of strength in Hollywood. Salma Hayek had spent years fighting to bring Frida, a film about the legendary Mexican artist Frida Kahlo, to life. It was her passion project, her dream. But behind the scenes, she was fighting a much darker battle, one that she kept silent about for years. At the height of her career, Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein was one of the most powerful men in the industry. He had the ability to greenlight or crush careers with a single decision. And Salma, like many others, found herself at his mercy. First, he seemed supportive. He agreed to produce Frida, but his support came with conditions. Over time, the demands became relentless. He pressured her to do a sex scene with another woman, threatened to shut down the project, and even physically intimidated her when she refused his advances. Every time she said no, the consequences loomed over her career. Despite the terror and humiliation, Salma refused to let him win. She complied with some of his demands only to keep the film alive, but she never gave him what he truly wanted: control over her. When Frida was finally released, it was a success, earning critical acclaim and Oscar nominations. But behind that triumph was a woman who had endured unthinkable abuse to see her vision realized. Years later, when the #MeToo movement gave survivors a voice, Salma broke her silence. In a powerful New York Times op-ed, she detailed the horror she had endured. It wasn't just her story, it was the story of countless women in Hollywood who had suffered in silence. Her bravery in speaking out became a turning point in the industry, proving that no amount of power could silence the truth forever. 10. Jessica Chastain. Holding Hollywood accountable. Jessica Chastain. Holding Hollywood accountable. Jessica Chastain sat in a dimly lit Hollywood boardroom, her fingers tapping against the polished oak table. Across from her sat producers, executives, men who had built careers on the backs of underpaid, overlooked actresses. She wasn't here to play nice. "I want to talk about pay equity," she said, her voice steady but firm. "And I won't take no for an answer." She had seen it firsthand. Women, especially women of color, consistently undervalued, paid a fraction of what their male co-stars received. She remembered the headlines when she stood by Octavia Spencer, helping her negotiate a fair salary. The industry praised her, but she didn't care about the applause. She cared about change. One of the executives sighed. "Jessica, these things take time." She leaned forward. "They take people willing to fight for them." Hollywood had taught women to be silent, to accept less, to be grateful for crumbs. But she refused. She used her voice, on social media, in interviews, in closed-door meetings like this one. When the industry whispered, "You should be careful," she spoke louder. When they warned, "You're making waves," she made a storm. Jessica Chastain wasn't just fighting for herself. She was holding Hollywood accountable. And she wasn't backing down. These celebrities have used their voices to challenge Hollywood's long-standing culture of sexism. Their openness has helped drive industry-wide conversations about fair pay, representation, and respect for women in entertainment. And that wraps up part 1 of Top Times Celebs opened up about sexism in Hollywood. From pay gaps to industry biases, these stars have spoken up and sparked important conversations. But there's still more to uncover, so stay tuned for part 2. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Globewise Entertainment and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next upload. We've got plenty more eye-opening stories coming your way. Let us know in the comments, which story surprised you the most? And what other topics do you want us to cover? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video if you found it interesting, and share it with your friends to keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching Globewise Entertainment. See you in the next one.